What's up, Danger Noodles? It's me, your boy Jax. Starting a new series today, like a new mini-series on the channel. Welcome back to Uncannime. I know I usually do like anime and manga related stuff, but here's a little fun tidbit. When I first started doing YouTube, like way back 3-4 years ago, I actually started a YouTube channel. You won't find it. It doesn't exist anymore. I got rid of it. But it was on like book reviews and stuff, and that's because that's one of my favorite things is to read books. So I just figured, since it's something I love to do and I love doing the channel, why not, you know, put them together a little bit so you can see what I read. And I don't know, just it's a video. It's what I like to do. So these books are not for children. Yeah, I don't suggest reading it under the age of 18. So I found this book series. I read it on my Kindle. I read a lot of my stuff on my Kindle, and that's because I don't have a ton of room in the apartment. Currently, these are the books that I have. You know, you can't see, but it goes all the way down to the floor. And I really only have physical copies of some of my favorite books. Or books that are gifts to me. And logic behind that is I don't have a ton of room, and if I can fit more books in a smaller space, cool. So let's get into the books for today. I love Celtic, like Irish and Irish Celtic story tales. So I was looking for books on the She, which is Sidhe, She. Which they're in the most simplest, and I hate using such a simple explanation because it could take a whole video to explain what they are. They're essentially Irish fairies or elves and stuff, and there's a ton of mythology behind it. I can make a video on what I know about them, but I wanted to find books on it so that, because I was like, oh, I want to do more research, I want to, you know, so you can tell I like Holly Black, that's something. Those are library books I borrowed that I'm going to be reading. I told you I like to read. And I came across this book and I was like, and that's because it was called The Pixie Who Something as She. And looking at it immediately, I knew what it was. I knew what it was going to be about. And I was like, there's no way. But here's the thing, it was like the 13th or 15th book in a series. I was like, oh, I can't start there. I won't know what's going on. So let's see what the other books are. There's 15 books in this series. I've already read 3. And they're only 140 pages long. So it's really easy for me to get 2 or 3 of them done in a day. If I really want to, but I had to take a break because when I read books I get like really into them, and also the contents of these books are a little spicy. They're written by a lady called Scarlett Hyacinth, the flower. The first book looks like this, and it is called The Lamb Who Cried Wolf. As you can see from the cover, what really got my attention was that it looks like it was photoshopped. And that really caught my attention because I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Another thing that caught my attention in reading the description is that there are shapeshifters, not just werewolves. And what I find quite often is that werewolves are essentially the shapeshifters in a lot of literature that I read. I say literature because everything's a work of art. You may not like it, but someone else might. So in this first one, Carson is a lamb shifter, and Brody is a wolf shifter. And some stuff goes down. Carson's a late bloomer, so he's not like a strong one. He's not a strong ram, as they put it, and they make fun of him and call him a ewe. Which is a female sheep, by the way. And so he does a lot of the stuff that a female ewe would do. And And so his brother and his friends try to do something that is quite triggering. It doesn't end up happening, obviously, but I was getting ready to close the book because of that paragraph. I was like, oh no, I can't read something with this in it, just because me personally, I have triggers that I don't like, and other people have triggers. So I won't mention what it is, but if you get triggered by a certain, like, autonomy kind of things, I wouldn't read that page at the least. The rest of the book, there's no issue with it at all. And so he's like crying and stuff, and the wolf shifters come out of nowhere, and the wolf shifters have a tendency to eat the sheep shifters because the sheep literally turn into sheep when they're scared, and they're like, that's a snack, and not like a snack, but like a snack. And so he sees them, and the thing with the wolf shifters is they get mates, and they're called true mates, and there's only one of them, and they mate for life. Rams, on the other hand, have several partners throughout their lives, and it's not uncommon. However, when Brody looks at Carson, he's like, don't touch him. He is mine. My husband, off. And they rescue him from the other rams, and he takes them away, and like, he literally just takes him. By the way, when they shift, they don't wear clothes when they shift back to human. This whole scene is going down without a wardrobe change. I really enjoyed it. So he takes him to a city, and they have a hugging session. They have a hugging session. A hugging session. Chapter 2, page 56. And they have 5 hugging sessions, I think. Yeah, 5 hugging sessions in that book. And at the beginning I was like, oh, this is all gonna just be hugging. This is all this is gonna be. But then once you hit the halfway point, it gets into like politics. Not like our kind of politics, but like, well, you have to have a wolf mate. You can't be predator and prey can't be together. It's very much an allusion to LGBT. Except the problem isn't that they're both guys. The problem is that one's predator and one's prey, and that's why the series is called Mate or Meal. And so all kinds of stuff goes down. It ends pretty roughly, and they go to live a peaceful life and stuff, and then bad stuff happens again, and so they have to get rescued by people, because the wolf, there was a test that was done and that they passed it, so the wolves were like, yeah, we're not gonna mess with you anymore. However, there was 2 wolves. Was it 2 wolves? Yeah, there's 2 wolves that pretty much were like, no, not gonna happen. So they went and they tried to eat Carson and hurt Brody. Brody got shot. He didn't like that, but they were working with Carson's brother. And Carson's brother is the one who tried to get the stuff that was triggering in the beginning of the book to happen. So Carson's really smart, actually. He's super smart, and he is like, well, they're gonna eat you right after they're done with me. They're gonna eat you. And he's like, oh no, and then stuff happens. Carson's brother gets unalived, and then the 2 wolves get wounded really badly because they're trying to eat Carson and hurt Brody, and there's people who come to help them because they have friends in the city. By the way, this whole thing takes over an expanse of 2 years in 137 pages, I think? Or 125. It was a small amount of pages. And I remember reading at the beginning of the book, it said something about like 30,000 words in length of work, and the first thing I thought was, that seems a lot like AO3. And when I tell you, reading this book, it felt a lot like reading a fanfiction. I'm not kidding, and I have no objection to fanfiction. As you guys know, I read fanfiction, I write fanfiction with Oliver all the time. Like, I love fanfiction. It's a different type of creativity, and I love it, and it was really easy to read, and I enjoyed it. And so in the end, they end up adopting two little kids, and there's like lots of issues with it, but they eventually they adopt them, and it's a sweet ending. Then we get to book 2, The Wolf Who Hatched an Egg. So this has Shiloh and Liam. This is the title, like the cover. Again, you can tell another thing with the Photoshop looking cover. Shiloh's a swan. He's very promiscuous, and that's not normal for swans. But like, he's coming from a bad relationship with a guy named Charles, and Charles used to hurt him. And he was the one he was his first, essentially. And so he goes and he has lots of sleepovers with people because, you know, he just wants to be away from his family, and it is just him taking control of his life in a way. And then there's Liam, and Liam is Brody's friend, who's also a wolf shifter. The first 3 books all have wolf shifters as the bear of the relationship. I know that sounds awful, because, you know, people are like, oh, twinks and bears. No, it's just like the beefier of the 2 is usually a wolf in these. And it's obvious. And literally, it made a noise. It tends to make a noise. Literally, chapter 1, they're introduced in chapter 1, which is fine, and they're introduced in a peaceful way. They're on Brody and Carson's land from book 1, so they're already friends. So, and then these two, they meet each other, and Liam is like, he sees him and he goes, that's my mate. No one is going to touch him, you know? And Shiloh's like, another guy. Great. So beginning of chapter 2, they do some hugging. And then Shiloh's like, okay, bye. He's like, what? Wait. And Liam's like super confused, and he's like, oh, I've messed up. I shouldn't have. Oh no. And Shiloh's like, well, it's no strings attached, you know, you can just hug any stranger on the street, I guess. I'm gonna go back. And then it all kind of like falls apart from there. And Brody somehow is like, gets it through his head that he talks to Shiloh, and he's like, hey, we're mates. And Shiloh's like, but I've hugged a lot of people. I don't really think you want someone who continuously gives people hugs. And he's like, you're not gonna hug anyone else anymore. It's fine. I'll take care of you. And so they have a really rocky start and stuff, but eventually they like move in together, and it's like Shiloh's life is turned around, and it's amazing. Like, he's happier now and stuff. And he, at some point, they're out and about, and one of Liam's old friends, who they did hug one time, they show up, and he's like, yeah, no, we're not, this is my mate. And he's like, oh, okay. And Shiloh's not happy with that. And so they go home, and there's a swan egg just left outside their door. And this is one of the greatest cliches, is just child left on your doorstep. And Shiloh immediately decides, that's my egg, I'm gonna hatch it, this is what we're gonna do now. And at first, Liam's like, I don't know, man, this is a little sketchy, but then he starts to like love the egg, and they're like working together to hatch it. And Shiloh says some mean things to him at some point because he's getting territorial. That's one of the things, is like, oh, swans are territorial. And by the way, Shiloh likes to sing, and one thing that helps them bond was that Brody was teaching Shiloh how to sing, because swans are tone deaf in this universe. But after a while, Shiloh's parents and his ex show up, this Charlie dude, and they're like, we know you took it, just give it back, there won't be an issue. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm at home. They're like, just let us in. He's like, no, this is my apartment, go away. And they're like, Shiloh, don't make this harder to have, we know you have the egg. And he's like, what are you talking, my egg? And they're like, Charlie's egg. We know you stole it. And he's like, whoa, I didn't steal it. It was left on my doorstep, and you have no proof that it's him. By the way, they've already, like, married, which it's called official mating. It's where they do paperwork, essentially. They're married. And they adopted the egg literally days prior to this point, and it was, like, 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. And Charlie is sitting here trying to, like, convince Shiloh that he'll forgive him if he gives the egg back. But he will also be like, but you can be the mother of sorts. We can be partners again, and you don't have to lose the egg, just come home with me and we can live together and work it out. And he's like, no, I adopted it. I adopted the baby, and I have a husband. And he's like, no, you can't possibly. He's like, yes, I did. And then, so they try to escape. Charlie ends up shooting the back of Liam's leg because Liam's defending his partner and the egg, and he almost unalives Shiloh through the car, and the other sons are like, whoa, stop, there's a baby in there, you can't endanger the baby. And he's like, you can't away with my kid. And they're like, yeah, but if he crashes the car because you hurt him, you don't have a kid anymore. And so they start getting suspicious of Charlie. And so they let Liam go, and Liam gets in the car, and then they go to the adoption agency where Skylar Pierce is. Skylar Pierce is a very interesting character. He's in all the books so far, and he's very helpful. He seems to know things, and he works at an adoption agency, and he's just helping these people. And he literally is like, yeah, no, that's not gonna fly. So they go and they find the egg's actual mother, and they get her to confess what happened. She was a surrogate, so she carried the egg for Charlie, and Charlie paid her, and she gave him the egg. And so he went, and she got a confession from him, actually, that he was going to plant it on Shiloh's doorstep and then take it away so that they would have to be partners. She didn't really care. It wasn't her deal with. She just needed money. And he's like, they present this in front of the Swans, and the Swans come to try and take the child away. And the Swan Elder's like, oh no, you keep the child. We're going to take care of you, and points at Charlie. And so they're leaving, and Shiloh gets shot in the back of the head by Charlie, and he goes, if no one can have him, if I can't have him, no one can. Which is really cliche, but he literally says that. And it's like, great. So the Swans take him into custody. He gets unalived at some point, but Shiloh somehow survives it to the back of his head, and there's like a super big chance that he's not going to wake up. He's stuck in a coma. He might not wake up after the 7-day mark. It just goes downhill. Like, there's just like no chance that he's going to wake up. So the baby's hatching, and so Liam brings the baby, and he had already decided that if Shiloh never woke up, he would still take care of their baby. And so he puts Shiloh's hand on top of the egg, and he's like, look, he's hatching. And he hatches, and the energy from him hatching wakes up Shiloh. And Shiloh's like, yeah, we're alive. Whoa, we got a kid. And so they named the kid Reed, and it's a happy ending. I was like, oh boy, because there was 10 pages left in the book, and then Shiloh was suddenly in a coma, and I was like, are you kidding me? And so it has a good ending. Then there's the third book, which is The Love He Squirreled Away. It looks like this, and as you can see, yet again, another wolf shifter and a squirrel shifter. So there's Daniel, and there's Soren. And what happens is Daniel and Soren meet each other at the birthday party of, yet again, Carson and, what's his name? No, not the birthday party, but Carson and, Carson and Brody introduces them at some point, and, like, Soren is Brody's brother, and it's all a big secret because Soren's the alpha, so you can't be like, oh, the squirrel's my mate, you know. And it's like super big deal, right? And at this point the wolves are like, great, another one. But because Soren is the alpha, he has to provide heirs, so he starts to get things in order, And Daniel is like, he's part of a squirrel family, and squirrel families actually are notorious for polyamory, which there's nothing wrong with polyamorous relationships. I'm not going to go into it. This is not up for debate. If it's a different way of life for some people, and some people it just doesn't vibe with, and that's okay. It's completely normal. And so he has so many siblings, and he has 2 dads, and he's got a mom, and like, it's just, he doesn't know which dad is his sire, and he doesn't really care because they're both his dad. And when he was young, he got this thing, it was a special type of chicken pox for squirrels and stuff, and it was supposed to kill him, and it didn't. So everyone's like, oh, you have a strain in your blood. So he goes to this family doctor that he's always seen. That doctor should not have had a doctor's license. And so, like, things go down. They get a surrogate mother for the pups, which is funny because squirrels, when they're babies, they're called pups too. So it's pretty funny. There's a bunch of jokes about it in the book. And so Soren makes it official. He's like, hey, this is my partner, and this is the mother of, and then he looks at this is the mom of his pups, because it was artificial insemination. And she was his beta, so she was like his second in command. He has 2 second in commands, and she was one of them. And she is actually the sister to Liam. I think her name's Carly. I don't remember. She gets a bad end halfway through the book. She passes away due to an assassination attempt on her and the pups. And the pups don't get assassinated because, you know, Daniel's a good dad. He skipped his doctor's appointment, went straight home, and he was like, oh, no. And the fight scene was very interestingly described. You'd have to read it. I can't begin to describe it. And he literally protects them, and then gets framed for the murder of the mom of his kids. And he's like, bro, I didn't do it. I loved her. She was like my best friend. Yeah, so that's the thing. And so, like, the rest of the book is spent, like, clearing things up, that it wasn't him who did it. And then you find out that his doctor was actually giving him pills that he didn't need, and the pills he was giving him were making him have seizures and the symptoms that he was still sick, so that he would keep coming back. And then he was trying to separate Soren and Daniel from being partners, because the doctor wanted to be partners with Daniel. And so obviously that doesn't end very well. But he also hired these people. He hired mafia people to mess with the Wolf Clan, and he went in too deep. And so the mafia boss's younger brother saw a picture of Soren, fell in love with Soren, and actually ordered the homicide of everyone who cares about Soren, so that he and Soren could be partners. By the way, this guy's a shark. So, like, the last 20 pages of the book, they're like having a chase down, and literally Skylar Pierce is there again, 3rd book in a row, and he gets hurt, and that's when you find out that he is actually a seahorse. Which, okay, you know, it's fine, except he gets hurt, and that's how you find out. And so the big mafia boss dude shows up. He's like, what are you doing? And he sees, and he looks at Skylar Pierce on the ground, sees him bleeding, and he freezes. And it's like, great. You messed up. Because in that moment, he realizes that Skylar Pierce is his mate. And he's bleeding out on the ground. He's like, which one of you did this? And literally, 3 guys piss themselves. They, like, lose control of their bladder, and they're so scared and stuff, and he ends up getting rid of the one who did it. Yeah, and then his brother gets put in place, and then, like, Soren and them are free to go, and, all of them are free to go, and the mafia cleans up the mafia mess, because he's like, you messed up my mate. And so he, like, comes to visit, Skylar, I think, and it's all kinds of things, and literally, I'm blanking, sorry. The pack, like, forgives, but they also are, like, apologetic because they're like, we shouldn't have blamed you, it wasn't your fault. And, like, literally the story ends with them talking to Carly's grave and being like, this is what happened and we avenged you. I'm so sorry this happened. The pups will never forget who you are. And stuff. And that's how it ends. And it's, like... So, an overview so far. It's 3 books. They're all written in 2011-ish area. And they're considered alternative, which means boy X boy or girl X girl, you know, LGBT books. And I didn't know that these existed. It was 2011, so I think in the United States it was 2012 when it became legal to get married. I don't remember, but I remember it being a big deal, and I was so excited about it. And I want to read more, but there's 15 books in the series. I want to give this the first 3 overview. If I did all 15 at once, I wouldn't be able to remember everything, and I also wouldn't be able to give such an in-depth overview, and honestly, you probably would get bored. So I just did the first 3 now. I might do 6 in the next one, just a quick overview. I might have to write down specific points so that I stay on track, and then I'll do another 6 one, or I could do 5 videos with 3 in it, because I do intend to finish the series. I really liked it. It reads really easy, like a fan fiction, which is a huge plus, and like at no point am I making fun of this author. I actually really enjoyed it. It sounds and reads like something Oliver and I would have written, which means it's in our taste. So, and I was telling Oliver about it, and he was just cracking up in some of the stuff I was telling him, and like, I really enjoyed it, but again, it's not for anyone under 18, so, yeah, that's it, I think. So, thanks for checking in. Hope y'all are doing good. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later. Till the next one.